Hello YouTubers, Joe Kersey here on Friday, the 26th of June, 2015, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Daylight Time. Now, a few hours ago, about 3.5 hours ago, the Supreme Court of the United States released its decision in the Obergefell versus Hodges case, with other petitioners as well, which is the same-sex marriage case, gay marriage case, if you will. And it's now paid and settled the issue once and for all, short of a constitutional amendment, which in our system over here in the United States takes a fair amount of work to get through to a constitutional amendment. You need 2/3 in each House of Congress to propose. You need 3/4 of the states to ratify it. And oftentimes there's a time limit set on it by the congressional resolution proposing the amendment. Sometimes they don't set a time limit on it. For example, I think it was Mississippi just recently ratified one of the anti-slavery amendment or something like that. It was odd because they had after Reconstruction, the southern states had to ratify the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to rejoin the Union. But Reconstruction's always been sort of a murky area in my knowledge. My son really knows a lot about it. In any case, that's irrelevant. This case is going to be the Brown versus Board of Education of our lifetime, and probably for the next 100 years or so, in terms of changing how people are treated. Maybe not how people think about each other, but how people are treated, at least in the eyes of the law. Justice Kennedy wrote the majority opinion. I about a half hour ago finished reading it. I have yet to read the 4 minority opinions, because each of the 4 dissenting justices filed their own opinion, and then others, some of them joined the other guy's opinion while also writing their own. So I'll get to that here later today or tomorrow. But suffice it to say, go to, it's SCOTUS.gov, SCOTUS.gov, and read the opinion. It doesn't take that long. It was interesting how Justice Kennedy set forth, he talked about, you have the due process clause and you have the this is due process of law and equality under law of the 14th Amendment. And but he kept talking about liberty versus due process, or liberty and due process, but 2 separate issues. So you have liberty, but he was equating liberty with equality under law. In other words, you can't have different liberties for different groups of people under the law. You have to be equal under the law. And then you can only deprive somebody of life, liberty, or property after due process of law. And so he used these two parallel arguments that then converged to say that to have denied the benefits of marriage, and not, he emphasizes more of the emotional and social benefits of marriage than the legally privileged things that come with marriage. But he also then dealt with that as well. Says those converge then to to have denied same-sex couples that right, that denies their equality, and then also by passing laws that privilege certain marital rights, in terms of taxes and inheritance and that sort of thing. For opposite-sex married couples, that then has deprived same-sex couples of their rights without due process. Without a procedure to redress that situation. So it's I myself have been a long time coming to see a lot of the problem is the English language. The word marriage for, eons, ever since the concept arose, has meant opposite-sex marriage, and always in a religious context until relatively recently when the idea of civil marriage was introduced, particularly in revolutionary France in the late 1800s. Where you have marriage as a civil contract, which it effectively always was anyway. And then if you want to have a religious ceremony on top of it, that's fine. The fact that a religious actor, presidor, can perform a civil marriage in the context of a religious setting is not to be confused with marriage primarily as a civil contract. And so to deny the benefits of a civil contract available to one group of people to another group of people is to deny them equality under the law, and effectively without due process as well, said Justice Kennedy. And I tend to agree with that. But see, my problem was with using the term marriage, because linguistically it's awkward in English. Probably in other languages as well, but I don't know. But I finally, very recently, came to realize that, it's a civil contract, obviously. You can have a marriage without having necessarily the religious overtones to it. Which is how I grew up. The idea was it had religious overtones. It was primarily a religious commitment as opposed to just something like you're buying a piece of property. Although, interestingly, throughout history up until the 19th century, from the woman's standpoint, she was treated as a piece of property of the man. So, ironies abound in all of this, don't they? Let's see something here. So it's interesting. One hopes that sort of the furor dies down a bit on this. It's been decided. Look how, well, of course, on the other hand, you have Roe Roe v. Wade, which was decided, and look how long the furors persisted about that. Well, but that was a badly written opinion. It was a horribly written opinion. It was very contingent on. It was a very contingent opinion. This opinion's actually argued from pretty much first principles. Go read it. Now, for my own sense of things is I would not want to get married for a variety of reasons. I've always had a problem with the state, a government sanctioning and restricting relationships between people. Short of them killing each other or, damaging each other or other people. I think the state needs to just keep out of that stuff. The government needs to keep out of that stuff. But that's me. And I certainly resent it. And I resent it and still resent it. And resent's the right word. The fact that for a long, long time and up to this point, married people get tax benefits and financial benefits and considerations that single people do not. Not only in the income tax laws, but in property tax laws and the whole bit. And I don't like that. I'll gladly pay my fair share, but I don't like having to pay more because other people are paying less than me. Just because they've made certain decisions in their life. I don't like that. So, there it stands. Good. That's going to be, this is going to be one of the really landmark decisions for the ages. Of course, on the other hand, other landmark decisions for the ages from the Supreme Court included Dred Scott. How'd that work out? Plessy versus Ferguson in the 1890s. How'd that work out? Well, and for that matter, Bowers versus Hardwick here recently in 1986, which was horrible, out of that case from Georgia. Finally reversed, with Lawrence out of Texas there a few years later, thank the good Lord. And that pretty much paved the way to what happened today. Yeah. Good for the United States. Good for gay people, same-sex people who want to be married. Good. As a person who normally votes for the more conservative candidate and generally of the Republican variety, although not necessarily, I've voted for Democratic candidates who are conservative. I sure hope the Republican presidential candidates go stepping around all over their dicks on this one, because they need to just sort of settle down about all this stuff. They do. They need to just calm down. There's no point being divisive now. It's over and done with. Alrighty, so on that note, I'm going to say bye-bye, YouTubers.